So this video is about our snacking and how it resonates with chakras that are in a lack energy. And I recently did a couple TikTok videos on this and they went viral because everybody was like, oh my God, that totally resonates. So I decided to go ahead and make a complete YouTube video to explain how and why all this works. And yes, it is true that when we're lacking in nutrients, vitamins, especially minerals, and the nutrient side of the physical body, we do crave things because we're lacking in nutrients. However, with what I do and what I see in my clients as a medical medium, when I look at their energy, if they're lacking in energy, it creates an issue physically where they also lack physically, because when you're lacking in energy or you're tired or you're drained or something's off balance in your chakras, it shifts your behaviors. And in a lot of cases, we shift to toxic behaviors because they temporarily give us joy and help us cope with our lives. So when there's stress in the body, we shift. So that's why the physical issues with craving, as well as the cravings that are attached to energy issues, they're kind of one and the same. So the root chakra is the first chakra, and that's in the base of our spine, in our tailbone. And that is basically the chakra that's like the foundation of our being. It's financial stability, material items, and like our ego energy and how we root and ground to like our purpose. And it's connected to money in a sense that we can either be overthinking money or we can be in a state of financial struggling where we're not handling our money properly. Like we're just not in control of money. There's not a balance there. So when that happens, and I see it a lot in marriages, when there's like bills or they buy a new home or there's remodeling of the home and there's all these issues going on financially, kids going to college and things like that. One of the main things I see in my clients that they eat a lot is pizza, because you're getting that red tomato sauce, you're getting the spice, you're getting that zest, and it's fulfilling the void in the root chakra of lack of money. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that the person doesn't have money. It just might mean that they're lacking in the balance of money. So the pizza sauce comes in, or spaghetti sauce, different things like that, chips and salsa, that comes in. And it's more the salsa. The tortilla chips is something else. I'll get to that in a minute. But it's that salsa. Again, you're getting into the tomatoes, the onions, the vegetables of the earth, but you're also getting into the spice, which subconsciously in our minds, spice like awakens us. For some reason, something about spice kind of helps us feel in control. It helps us feel balanced because we're getting that flavor. We're getting something, satisfaction. You know what I mean? So when you find yourself consuming a lot of those foods, it's usually resonated around money and having a lack of balance in the energy of money. The next chakra after that is the sacral chakra. Now this chakra is our personal power. It is the sex organs. It's connected to sexual passion, sexuality, and also connected to basically our connection, our purpose, and standing truly within like our personal power. But the sex side of things is where the snacking comes in. Now, don't laugh. With the sacral chakra, there are certain fruits that resonate with it, like mangoes, oranges, apples, pineapples with the solar plexus. I'll get with that in a minute. But there's also cinnamon and certain spices, cloves, and different things like that. Pumpkin spice is another one. Of course, we all love our pumpkin spice lattes, but they do, if it's something you're craving, it can be because there's a lack of energy in the sacral chakra. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a lack of sex. There just means there's a lack of energy connected around sexuality. So it doesn't have to necessarily be about relationships and sex. It could be sexuality. There could be another issue there going on, whether it's health or something emotional, an insecurity, something that somebody's coping or dealing with. Now, in certain relationships, when there's lack of sex, or sex is used to manipulate the other partner, or it's somehow used in a negative way, that's when the receiving partner who's being manipulated will start to crave spicier foods because it gives them a sense of power, because it's something with that spice, it clicks in the mind. So they're going to be eating more cinnamon, more hot sauce, salsa. Chips and salsa is very common with the sacral chakra because you're getting the crunch and is satisfying the throat chakra. Because the problem is with snacking, it's not always just one chakra. So I'm going to kind of separate here for just a second, because with the sacral chakra, the thing I see the most common is chips and salsa, or saltine crackers with some sort of dip, whether it's ranch or something more spicy. Because when there's something lacking in the sacral chakra, because it's related to sexuality, it immediately causes people to retreat in the voice and not share anything. They don't share their feelings. It's awkward. Nobody wants to talk about like sex, right? Or they don't want to talk about their sexual issues. They don't want to go there. It's awkward because we all have this standard, right? With sexuality, that we all have to have this certain part or this role sexually, right? And if we can't do that, or there's a lack of sex in the relationship, it's not something we're going to talk about comfortably. So it creates issues in the throat chakra. Now the throat chakra, that's where we crave crunchy foods, because it allows that vibrating in the throat. It's kind of like a short, temporary pacifying feeling that there's activity in the voice, even though we're totally suppressing it and keeping everything to ourselves. So that's why with the sacral chakra, it's usually something crunchy mixed with something spicy, I guess is where I'm going with that. So it could even be like red pepper hummus and pita chips. That would be a huge sacral chakra snack. Say that 100 times and don't stutter. But that's where that comes in, because the throat gets suppressed, because no one wants to discuss negative issues with sexuality or negative issues with not being able to stand in their power. So if they're in a narcissistic relationship, or if they're in a toxic work environment, a work environment where there's a lot of gossip, they're going to crave salty snacks with a spicy dip, especially in a toxic marriage, toxic relationship. Now, toxic workplace, I could go on about this forever because I was in banking for 7 years prior to doing what I do now. And I hands down all the salty snacks in my desk. I worked in the most toxic work environment. One of the banks I worked at, it was horrible. Fortunately, it was shortly lived and I was able to transfer out of that bank, but I was there 6 months and it was all the salty snacks I could possibly eat, like within a day. So with that, with the sacral chakra, it can vary, and it does usually connect to the voice, because there's always some reason or some issue that the person suppresses their voice because they don't want to talk about it. The next one is the solar plexus chakra. Now that sits right behind the stomach, and this one gets a little more specific because our solar plexus chakra is all about intuition and following our like intuitive feeling, that gut feeling. And it's also similar to the sacral chakra with personal power. This is about personal power with like life choices, really truly being comfortable and being open in our life choices. If there's a fork in the road, we're able to look at the options and make the decision that suits us best. But if there's an imbalance in the solar plexus chakra, that's where we start craving things like bananas, oranges, most fruits, carbs like oatmeal, and certain breads and different things like that, because it's giving us that sense of fulfillment. And also, what I love about the fruit thing, our body just knows. It's a subconscious thing. We don't even realize we're doing it. But pineapple and oranges mixed together at room temperature, when you take in that juice, your body subconsciously reacts as if you've been exposed to the sun. It automatically clicks on and the energy comes in. Pineapple and oranges is an amazing, very subtle, very natural antidepressant. So if you're in a space in your life where you're lacking in that solar plexus energy, maybe you're overwhelmed with decisions, there's too much going on and you don't know where to start, or maybe you feel like you don't have any decisions at all and you're feeling trapped. And that I see a lot in relationships with the stay-home mom and the narcissist husband who makes all the income, and they feel trapped. They feel like they can't get out of this relationship or out of this toxic situation because they don't make any money. So that's where they snack accordingly to the root chakra and the sacral chakra, but then they also bring in something that connects to the solar plexus because they're fulfilling so many voids. So with the solar plexus, as they're trying to fill that void of those life choices, those big decisions, things like banana chips come in because you're getting the fulfillment of the banana, plus you're getting that fruit and that sugar, but you're getting the crunch to go with the throat chakra because you're suppressing in your voice. So now you're filling the void of negative self-talk, because a lot of times it's common for people. Now this is just what I'm seeing. This isn't for everybody, but it is common when people get stuck in life or they feel trapped, like they feel like they don't have a way out. They start having issues with positive self-talk. They start beating themselves up and they don't have the security that they need to kind of shift their perception and see possibly that there could be a way out. When someone starts to feel trapped, it makes them feel vulnerable, which brings in insecurity, which can eventually bring in mild depression or serious depression, depending on the situation. So that's where the fruits come in and the sugars, because that's giving them, it's like a temporary satisfaction of filling a void, of feeling lost and not having a sense of direction. So that's where the solar plexus comes in. Now with the heart's a tough one because it kind of covers all snacking, because The heart is the sense of self-love and also relationship love, but also universal divine love. It is truly our power source. Everything we say and everything we do and how we react to what is said and what is done to us should come from the heart. Your heart's your power source. So when there's a lack of energy, whether it's in a relationship or maybe it's in childhood with lack of love from the parents, lack of emotional support, there's a million things where there could be lack of love. People will start snacking and start eating comfort foods to fill that void in the heart. So now we're getting into the sugary foods like pastries, donuts, candies, and sour, like Sour Patch Kids. Those actually connect with the throat chakra as well. But people start eating those comfort foods and they get into the really high calorie, more rich, like cheesecake and the more filling type foods, because it fills that void in the heart and it helps give that temporary satisfaction of love. Because when we eat sugar, especially chocolate, our body reacts hormonally. It secretes hormones, of course, like insulin and all that, of course, but it also, our body reacts as if we're being loved. So when we're in that lack of self-love energy, if there's stress related to that, our body's going to start sending stress signals to the mind, and our brain is going to kick on and put us in survival mode, which causes us to slow down metabolically. And we also secrete cortisol, which basically is like a stress hormone, and that's what causes weight gain issues. So it kind of is a domino effect with the lack of energy in the heart with love, especially like if a person passes. And so I see this all the time with my clients. Someone they love that they're close to passes. Now they have to deal with that, with the grieving. But then they also have to deal with the estate, and they have to deal with the money and all the issues that come along with that. And then in some of my cases I've seen, they end up getting in conflict with the family, and it's just this domino effect of stress. By the end of that year of that family member passing, they've now gained weight, and they're in very bad habits with comfort eating because they've just lost sight of themselves because they've been so wrapped up and in so much stress dealing with the loss of a family member as well as dealing with the issues around it. So it's just something a lot of us, unfortunately, we go through. So that's why it's so important when we get into a state of high stress in our life, when something's going on, we really need to assess and evaluate what's going on around us and really tap in big time to our body. And what is our body saying? How is it responding? What are those emotions doing? And what are we craving for food? Because that's going to be our signal to let us know where we're lacking and why. Now, the throat chakra I kind of mentioned earlier a little briefly, but this one's a tough one too, because now we're getting into the really deep side of ourselves. This is our self-talk. This is where we share our voice, our thoughts, our opinions, our emotions. If we're in a unstable childhood as a child, we're told we're bad, we're told we're not doing good, and we're told we can't talk about it because we'll get in trouble. And children, some of my clients, I mean, they're in their 50s, and I find stuff in their throat that's from when they were 4 and 5 and they were in a BC not heard type childhood, or they went to a they went to a really strict private school or boarding school, and they just have all this energy and all this fear suppressed in their throat chakra because they were literally told they weren't allowed to talk, or it was bad. And then also those who work in a really toxic environment where there's gossip, especially like office environments, schools, there are so many different toxic issues I've seen with teachers and stuff, with the gossip and the parents and all the political stuff. But in the throat chakra, it's very common to crave anything crunchy across the board. I've had clients who crunch on ice because they just need to chew. Because when we're not able to speak, it causes us to clench our teeth and it causes us to grind. And at night, that's where a lot of people get neck pain, because their voice just gets so suppressed that their jaw just clenches because they don't have anywhere to put that energy of voice. So it comes through in the jaw in the form of clenching, which causes us to crave crunchy foods because it gives us that chewing and the movement of the mouth as if we were talking. And again, it's like a temporary satisfaction of releasing in the voice. So it could be vegetables that you're craving, like carrot sticks and celery, or it could be pita chips and saltine crackers or tortilla chips. I will say, I see tortilla chips almost on every chakra. Like they cover everything. Tortilla chips, tacos and nachos. That is like, that needs to be its own chakra. Like we need a taco chakra. But for real. So with that, the next thing I will say is, with all the chakras, since we're talking about tacos, nachos, and tortilla chips, salt. you will be adding more salt. And this is, again, a very common one that I see, people adding salt to all their food, because salt subconsciously is, we're trying to remove toxins from our environment. So if you're, again, in a toxic environment, and this tends to be more what I see with clients in like gossip, or they're in the middle of family conflict and the family's gossiping. One client I'm particularly thinking of, she lived in a small town and everybody talked about everybody, and she was a salt mama. Like, she put salt on everything. So with that, it tends to, the reason we do that, there's two things. One, the salt, again, it gives that false sense of satisfaction with just filling that void, because we're putting salt. It's giving us flavor. It kind of turns on those taste buds and makes us feel good. It's temporary, but it works. But it's also subconsciously, salt removes toxins. That's why when you go by the ocean and you take a deep breath, you instantly feel a release. It's because of all the salt in the air. Salt lamps are so healing. I can't say enough good about them. And so there's this sense of salt, and having salt, it's like you're removing toxins from your body and also neutralizing toxins around you through the consumption of salt. Now with the third eye and the crown, this is a little bit different, because now we're getting more spiritual. You get more spiritual with the solar plexus, then of course it's getting even more spiritually connected with the love energy in the heart, and then the throat. Now we're really getting into the spiritual side of things and being connected intuitively to our spiritual senses, our guides, whatever we want to believe in, our God if we're religious, our God if we're spiritual. But you know what I'm saying, like whatever we believe that powers us in our faith, that gets more and more in higher in frequency as you shift up the body in the chakra centers. So once you get to the third eye and the crown, now we're out of the physical body. We're working more spiritually. So as your third eye starts to open, or you get more spiritually connected, you'll start craving more clean foods. You'll be more attracted to essential oils. You'll be more drawn to organic. You'll start to think about being plant-based. I've had clients who, as they open up in their spiritual awakening, they'll literally get like a hurt feeling kind of emotion when they see meat, and they start to slowly turn plant-based. Now, it's not for everybody, but I have seen it. But overall, when you're in your spiritual awakening and things will start opening up spiritually and you're starting to feel that connection, your food and your eating habits do shift, because you're starting to want to be more clean. So not only just an energy clean, but physically clean in the body. So you start to shift to be more organic, you start eating more greens, and you just kind of get more attracted and more drawn to the more organic, natural side of eating. So again, this is just what I've seen myself personally with clients as a medical medium, or, doing different spiritual, stuff that I do. It doesn't necessarily mean this is for everybody, because we all snack for different reasons. However, when there is an imbalance in your energy and something's off energetically, we'll shift, and our body communicates with us in a variety of ways. And our eating habits are one of our biggest forms of communication, that our body is trying to let us know something's up. Especially if we're lacking in magnesium, calcium, potassium, and all those minerals that we don't have access to unless we eat healthy, our body will start to crave things that will let us know something's missing and we need to fill that void. And of course, chocolate, I saved that for last. Save the best for last. There's all sorts of studies and theories on chocolate. And I'll just tell you right now, when I see an energy, personally, chocolate, as long as it's not the crap chocolate candy and I'm being very blunt, it's crap. It's just sugar and crap and fake. It's crap. I don't know how to describe it. If you can get good, organic, whole, natural chocolate, it is very good for you, and your body responds on a chemical level in a very positive way. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're filling a void. You're truly putting something healthy in your body. There's a lot of different varieties out there too. Like, research organic chocolate, or chocolate made from cashew butter, and chocolate made from, coconut milk and things like that. There's some really good options out there. But chocolate is definitely, especially for women, our bodies go through so much, and we shift and change hormonally. We're growing babies and having babies, and then we go through menopause. It's like, holy crap. And chocolate it helps to do that, and it helps with those symptoms, as well as it helps with our emotions. I'm not going to lie. It totally just hits the brakes when we start to just feel overwhelmed with our emotions, right? Chocolate does help. So that does help fill voids in all the chakra energies. It's kind of like the salt. When we're in the toxic environments, we start consuming salt to keep cleansed and almost remove those toxins through consumption of salt. Chocolate's kind of the same way when there's an imbalance in energy in general, as well as if that imbalance in energy is causing imbalance of hormones, like hormonally. So that's kind of how I've seen that with energy as well, and the consumption of chocolate. So tap into that. Start paying attention to what you eat or what you don't eat. And also, if you start losing appetite or you start noticing that you're just not hungry, something's going on there. It could be a chemical thing, but it could definitely be an emotional thing. It could also be a very significant sign of depression because you're losing interest in the taste of food. So if there's a lack of joy in food, there's something within you that's lacking in joy as well. So there's a variety of things. So when it comes to food and your body and your energy, pay attention to what's changing and what you're eating, because it'll pretty much tell you everything you need to know.